Hello, and welcome to Joan Sees Spirits. This is my channel that I just started, so I thought I'd, start it off with just talking about spirits, the other side, anything you guys would like to know about the spiritual stuff, how, people communicate with them, etc., etc. Our soul groups, our reincarnation stories, auras, you name it. I'll be talking about it. So I just wanted to say hello to everybody and say welcome to my story. I have been sick most of my life. I'm on disability. I am disabled, quite disabled. But I can still do things. One of the things I learned early on was that I could see spirits. My family, most of them, were very helpful along the way in listening to what I've seen and helped me figure it out, what it was, what it wasn't, etc. It helped me to not be scared of the dark. It helped me to not be scared of a lot of things. So these will be my stories, and I will help those who I can. Sorry, I'm just really nervous. I've never done something like this before where I'm so out in the open. Anyway, so yeah, I'm almost 50. I started seeing spirits at around the age of 5 or 6, my earliest recollection of one. There's a lot of great stories I've got, but I'll have to change names and stuff so it doesn't get out. But yeah, and I'm a paranormal investigator, so I've used what I've learned about spirits and help to either let them understand that they're dead. Sometimes they don't, very rarely. Help them understand that you go to the light and the light will take you home. It's pretty basic stuff, how to help them. Sometimes it's just listening to them. Sometimes it's asking them to leave a home. Sometimes it's letting them stay in the home if they're good. If they promise they won't hurt anybody or whatever. If something has been scary, I'll communicate with the spirit and let them know that it scared them and that that's not the way to be if you're going to be living in the house with them. If not, we'll have to make you leave. So anyway, so that, yeah, probably not going to talk about a lot of personal stuff, but I've been sick since I was little. I've almost died twice, very closely the last time. So the last time I got COVID and sepsis, and I got very ill very, very fast. Within 3 days of feeling sick, I was unconscious, and my cousin came and found me unconscious because nobody was here at the time, and so she got me to the hospital. She called the ambulance got me in. I ended up waking up a week later in Fargo, not knowing where I was, didn't have my teeth, didn't have my glasses, couldn't see or eat much. It was very scary because the sepsis almost did me in. So yeah, that was very close to death. And when I came to, the first time I can remember coming to there, the first time was I opened my eyes and there was my mom and my grandma and my dad standing at the foot of the bed. And I said, "Am I dead?" And they're like, "Nope." And I said, "Okay." And then I looked a little bit more and I saw my best friend's dog that had passed away like a week before laying on my chest. And every time I wanted to go back to sleep, she'd slam her paw on my chest and say, "No, you can't go back to sleep. You have to be awake now." And so, yeah, it was very kind of scary to come to and know that those people that are gone are actually, well, I've known that they're with us, but anyway. But it was interesting to see them all sit there. And while I was in the hospital, I had a visit from the thyroid doctor, which I have thyroid issues. And he came in, he was in the gown, all duded up with all of their yellow, keep everything covered up so they don't get sick kind of wear. And we visited for a bit, and he told me, what he looked at my file and what he thought. And I said, "Yeah, I just take my pills and I'm okay with my thyroid." And he goes, "Well, that's good." And then he gets up to go and he takes off all of his stuff inside the room and throws it away. And I went, I said, "Don't do that. You're going to get sick. I don't want you to get sick." And he goes, "Oh, don't worry about me." And he came back and he sat down, and I could see he had on this like creamy violet kind of color of a jacket, and then he had like the shirt underneath that was showing through was what do you call them now? Shit, I can't remember what they're called. Paisley print, that's what it was. And I visited with him, and I didn't get any idea that anything was wrong, but I said, why are you sitting here like this? And he said, don't worry, I won't get sick. I'm like, everybody says they're not going to get sick, but they all do eventually. He said, nope, I'll be fine. And then he gets up and he turns around, and I was going to say bye to him, and in comes this nurse, and he just walked out the door. So I was fine. And I said, that doctor was fun to visit with. He knew a lot of, a lot of things about, COVID and stuff like that. And she said, what thyroid doctor? And I said, the one that was just in here when you came in. She goes, what doctor? And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, she was just white. And she goes, I've got to tell the girls. And I said, okay. And she said, he died 2 weeks ago. And when I described him, she said, that's him to a T. He loved to wear that purple color, and he liked paisley print and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And she said, so if a candy striper nurse comes in and doesn't, comes in your room and asks if you're okay, say you're okay, or she will stay in there for hours. I'm like, she doesn't know she's dead? And she said, oh, I think she does, but she just wants to keep working. And okay, thanks for letting me know. And I didn't tell him about the weird dark things creeping on the walls there, but that was another time to talk about that. Anyway, so yeah, I ran into that nurse, and I said I was doing great. And she said, oh, wonderful. And she walked through the wall. At least the thyroid doctor walked through the door. Anyway, so yeah, I've seen spirits a lot. I've helped people with spirits in the local area. I've done where people have called me with questions about spirits. I do some psychic readings, not very often. I don't feel comfortable with it yet. I mean, if it's somebody I know, it's easier for me to, kind of communicate with their spirit that they want to talk to. But if it's somebody I don't know, I have a really hard time trusting in myself that I will say the right thing and not hurt their feelings. Anyway, so that's me. If any of you decide to follow me on any of this stuff, comment on this video and let me know the questions you want asked or you want answered about spirit stuff, and I'll do the very best I can. Anyway, thank you. I'm Joan Sees Spirits, and I hope to be seeing you around a lot more. Thank you. Bye-bye.